sexiest voice in all of sports media, Nick Friedell.
Nick has this rugged masculinity that all of us at ESPN are jealous of.
I don't know about friend of the program because I think you're lumping me in with being a friend of Friedell, and I don't want to be associated with all that.
Thank you, Nick, and your voice is very deep and sexy. I have
What you gonna do, brother?
Yeah,
When Mac
exactly.
Jones is coming for you.
How would you describe the level of hope that everyone else spoke with yesterday in regards to what James Wiseman brought?
What are they talking about regarding Wiseman and like the impact he can make this season?
Yeah, just how much the
Kelly, obviously you can't predict the future. We'll see what happens this summer. But would you be willing to take less money?
Bro, I'm not answering your questions no more. I'm sorry. Next question.
That may be the greatest intro
in the history of
intros. Cousin Nick is back on the air. By the way,
you.
Raymond Ritter listening to this or that. Of course, Raymond Ritter.
Yeah.
He does everything for the Golden State Warriors. Apology not accepted. One for the thumb. So I may not have a job on television next season. Just FYI.
Raymond, blame it on me.
Blame it on Sasky. He goaded me. Just playing along, Raymond. You know I want one for the thumb. Come on. Cousin Nick. Nick Friedell down in South Beach, Miami. Let me tell you, Nick, you've been on some roll.
Yeah.
The Red Rock, what do they call that in Denver, Colorado? Red Rocks? What do they call that, Nick?
Red Rocks, baby.
You were dancing. You had the pink button up on. You were showing the taco meat. I mean, now you're in South Beach, Miami. And every time I see you on television, you're smiling from ear to ear. I mean, you are living a life right now covering the NBA Finals.
It's pretty awesome, D. Although I have to admit, that every time I hear that Oubre clip,
It's the best.
it's just, I still can't believe that all of that went down, and then the Warriors bounced back and win the title. I mean, it's just
Hey, win the title, Nick, with your boy Andrew Wiggins.
that's right. Wiggins was awesome. I mean, the fact that all that happened, and now they're trying to reload one more time. I mean, it is a fun walk down memory lane. But guys, it is pretty cool because when the Nets imploded and they dealt KD and they dealt Kyrie, I was kind of like, oh boy, what happens the rest of this season? And the fact that Jimmy Butler has gotten the Heat to this point is stunning. I've never seen a turnaround in this short of an amount of time in my life. And
Wow.
it's been pretty cool to see unfold, although it sure looks like Jokic and Murray not only wanted to send a point last night, but are on a mission down here to end this thing pretty quickly.
You know, it's interesting because I'm looking at two teams here, and as I juxtapose them to the Warriors, I look at the Heat situation, and it feels very outlier-ish. And bear with me where I'm going here. Like, Jimmy Butler from regular season to the playoffs had elevated himself. And those first 8 games were historic. He's cooled off since then, right? But he is a guy from the regular season to the playoffs. He gets infinitely better. But the rest of that roster, like, you cannot be a team trying to create the type of like undrafted culture that they put together. It's very Miami-ish, and I feel like it's unfair for Warrior fans or other teams around the league to try to replicate or look at Miami as some sort of a template. It works there, but I don't think it's a fair measuring stick, I guess is what I'm saying, for other teams in the league. Do you agree with me?
I agree with you completely, Joe. When you look at the way Miami does things here, and the type of guys they find, what I would tell you is it's the closest thing that the NBA has to a college program. They find guys they believe will fit, and then they bring them in, and they allow them the time to grow within the framework of their program. And they give them a few years, and they hope that everything kind of improves incrementally, and you see guys like Caleb Martin and Max Strus and Duncan Robinson, guys that the casual fan probably doesn't even know or is just learning about right now. Gabe Vincent. You have those guys, and then you add a Jimmy who, I was talking to him the other day. Even he admitted he didn't think he would get to this point in his career, but he earned it all. He worked as hard as anyone I've seen, and he he willed himself to this point. And Bam has been very good at times, didn't play so well last night, but this team absolutely is an outlier. I don't see anybody being able to replicate what they've done. So anybody who's sitting there going, the regular season doesn't matter, and you can just kind of flip the switch when you want to, I don't buy that. I believe in what Spoelstra says. I believe in what a lot of other coaches have said over time. You need the regular season to grow the habits that you want to develop once you get into the playoffs. So count me as one that'll be surprised if this kind of story unfolds again down the line.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you here. We're talking to Nick Friedell, ESPN. He's been covering the Brooklyn Nets, the Phoenix Suns, and Miami Heat. Down in Miami covering the finals here. And let's look at the Denver Nuggets because you led with that, Friedell. The first pair of teammates to have a triple-double in the same game in finals history. Jamal Murray was special. Jokic just dominated with the first ever 30-20-10 game. And looking at the Nuggets long-term, Jokic under contract, 27 years old. Murray, young in his mid-20s. Michael Porter Jr., who hasn't played well in the series, but he's locked up. Christian Braun, who had a big impact on last night's game number 3 as the Nuggets take a 2-1 series lead. Does the West now run through Denver for the foreseeable future, in your opinion?
Yeah. And even hearing that and saying that is crazy because, let's face it, Denver just, they're not well known. They're not well known in their own market. One of the questions Adam Silver took before Game 1 was, why can't Nuggets fans see these games? Why is there still such an issue with being able to watch a game on television in that market? So I have not seen the Nuggets like this day to day because usually I'm only seeing them a few times a year. Guys, Jokic is awesome, and he just doesn't get the credit, not only because I don't think people watch this team, but he's not going out of his way to do any kind of extra media. He's not really saying much to draw your attention in after games, but the guy is that good. There's a reason why he won the MVPs. There's a reason why that offense is in such a rhythm with him out there. And you mentioned Murray and Porter. They have all kinds of pieces.
KCP.
Trust Michael Malone.
Yeah.
There are reasons why they've gotten to this point, but what would scare me not only as a Warriors fan if you're sitting out there in the Bay, but like for the NBA, good luck getting by that team if they stay healthy.
Real quick, Nick, just real quick on Jokic. Does the NBA need to do a better job of promoting Nikola Jokic? Because he's averaging a triple-double during this postseason, and we were just having a conversation kind of playing off of Dan Le Batard down there in Miami saying, why isn't this guy promoted more? He's magic. He's Bird. He does everything they do and much, much more. Does the NBA need to do a better job of promoting a team like the Denver Nuggets and players like Nikola Jokic?
You know what it reminds me of? It's the Mike Trout question in Major League Baseball.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because the three of us have talked about this for a few years now. Mike Trout, when he's healthy, is still incredible.
Yep.
Guy's awesome. But he doesn't want that extra spotlight. He wants to go to the park, play, hit a couple home runs, and go home. And that is his prerogative. And as I watch Trout from a distance, and now I'm seeing Jokic up close in these last couple of weeks, and I'm watching the run that he's been on the last few years, that's what it reminds me of. So, yeah, you can say, hey, the NBA needs to do a better job. Okay, I agree. But the other part to that is the player has to be willing to put himself out there a little bit more.
Yeah.
And from what I can tell, Jokic will do the interviews. He'll do what is required, but he's not going to show that much personality. And that, again, that's his decision. That's his choice. But it's not something that the league or anyone else can force upon him. And that's where I would be cautious in anyone saying, the NBA's got to do more. The NBA, I think we'd all agree, does a really good job promoting its stars, sometimes at the detriment of promoting its team.
Yeah.
But if you're Jokic and you just don't want that, nobody can make you do it.
Yeah. Nick, I want to rat-a-tat-tat a couple of things because you're at the finals and it feels like all of the media from all the corners of America kind of like converges on wherever the finals are at, and I'm sure there's a lot of gossip, okay? So this isn't you. This is just gossip that you're hearing and from all over, and if you can, I want you to be as honest as possible. I want to rat-a-tat-tat a couple of these. Bob Myers, was it money? Was it respect? Why is he no longer with the Golden State Warriors?
It's a variety of different factors, is my guess, Joe. But what I believe to be true is what Bob said, and it just sounded like in listening to that press conference the other day and talking to people around the league, he was ready for a change.
Gotcha.
And he sounded like a guy who was burned out after all those years. And it's understandable, guys, because the grind of any of those jobs is so intense. But the grind of that job on that team with the pressure involved in trying to win all the time is just different. So, like everybody else, I'm watching from a distance, and I'm going, why would Bob want out of there? Especially because, and I know you guys hit on this all the time because I listen all the time, why wouldn't you stay and finish out with Steph? That always, for so many people in the organization, it's like, all right, we know we've got this once-in-a-generation superstar. Let's just finish this out and see how it goes. But I believe Bob and what he said. Just, it's like I needed a second.
Yeah.
And he talked about his family, and I think that was genuine. So there are always a lot of factors in play when a move like that takes place. And certainly I sat there and went, why couldn't they work this out? But in the end, the organization runs too well to believe that they won't find somebody, whether it's Mike Dunleavy or somebody else, to make it continue to go with Steph in place. But, Joe, it is a topic of conversation certainly around the league, but just from being around in years past and listening, I think he just needed a deep breath there for a second.
It's got a Bochy feel to it. He's going to sit out for a year or two and come back.
He'll be back.
Is the feeling from the media Klay and Dre are back in for a minimum of 1 year, or a big, bold move is going to happen with the Golden State Warriors where one of the big three is not with them next year?
The feel, at least as far as I gather, is that both those guys will make that push for one more. The name that pops up, guys, if we're just talking about media members discussing what's going to happen or what may happen down the line, is, okay, where does Poole go?
Yeah.
It feels like Poole's time is running short out there. Again, you all have your fingers on the pulse much more, but I mean, when you're hearing Steve on Draymond's podcast, also unbelievable.
Why is he on the pod?
Yeah, that's what are people saying about that, Nick?
Yeah,
about Kerr being on that podcast. And a lot of people. Look, I'm not going to put words in Kerr's mouth, but it sounded like you look at Miami, everybody's bought in, and you look at the Warriors in our locker room, some may be mad about playing time or pouting or whatnot. What are people talking?
Yeah.
What do they think about that? Steve Kerr jumping on the podcast with Draymond Green.
Well, it was interesting because I saw Mr. Spears. I saw Mark Spears the next day, and he's like, I think I'm going to ask Spoelstra about this. And, of course, Spoelstra was like, I didn't listen to the podcast yet, but
well played.
Yeah, exactly. I just couldn't believe after all the ups and downs of that relationship. I see the clips coming on Twitter. I'm like, okay, Steve. All right. But what I think the way that everything kind of contextualizes for me, guys, is that for all of the ups and downs of this season for the Warriors, they are still so highly regarded across the league. It's like when you're talking about different organizations and the way things are run, everybody is hell bent on discussing Heat culture. I mean, as it should be, the fact that they got to the finals again with this team. But then it's like, okay, they're up on that mountaintop with the Warriors, and I mean, the Spurs are terrible now, but they were so good and have been so good for so long, and now they got Wembanyama coming in a month or so. But when you look at what they've accomplished, I think that when you hear people talk about the Heat and what they've done, in the next breath, there is an appreciation for all that the Warriors have done. So as far as what happens in the future, my guess, and that's all it is right now, is that Draymond and Klay and Steph are all together one more time. But I think that the general consensus seems to be that while there may not be a major move with one of the big three, there will be a major move with somebody else or someone else's deal over the next couple months here.
Cousin Nick, you say, they may run it back with Draymond and Klay. Obviously, Draymond has the opt-in clause for $27 million. Do you think they get extended? Klay Thompson, 1 year, $43 million left.
Kerr.
We know about the terms. Steve Kerr, another year left on his deal, his last year of the deal. What do those extensions look like? Is it just, hey, Draymond, play it out? Because I don't know if Draymond's going to do that. I know he's looking for his money now. What does that look like? Do they extend Draymond Green for another 2-3 years, you think?
I think that one is much more plausible. The Klay stuff, I just don't see how you can give Klay that much money moving forward. I mean, that's just the reality. Klay is beloved. We know all the reasons why.
Right.
If you're the Warriors and you're looking at your future, how do you give Klay that much money moving forward? He is beloved. He's just not the same player anymore. I mean, it's a cold reality of the pro sports business, but that is what it is. And that, to me, is much more fascinating than whatever happens with Draymond. Because, B, I agree with you. Draymond, and this is absolutely his right, he's earned whatever money's coming his way.
Right.
And he keeps saying, he wants to stay. Okay, maybe they figure that out. But I remember talking to Joe Lacob after that Rockets series a few years back when they won in the second round, and the team was going nuts going in the locker room because they were so happy. It was Harden and Paul, and they knocked them out again.
Game after
Joe
KD
Lacob
got hurt.
Said, right. And Joe Lacob said, I want Klay to be here forever. He said, I want Steph to be here forever, and I want Klay to be here forever. We have developed a special relationship over time. But we are at the crossroads now, guys, because Klay's talent after those injuries, it's not at the same level that the Warriors had hoped it would be. And he's given everything to the organization. But this is business. So I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know who draws the hard line for the situation. But if Klay wants mega money, I'd be really surprised if it came from the Warriors. And I say that knowing full well just how much Lakers loves and respects.
That's a really good point. All right. So let's say, hypothetically in this situation, Jordan Poole is moved off of, and to me it makes more sense if he's not there. Would it be the worst thing in the world to bring Chris Paul in as a facilitator and as a guy who's going to play significantly less minutes? You're going to pick and choose your spots. Like, he's the opposite in terms of, like, he's a little more reliable. He's a veteran. He's here to win. You wouldn't be having him as a lead dog. Does he have anything left? Like, I'm open-minded. I'm not saying that you got to do it. I'm saying I'm open-minded to it, and I'm not crossing it off. Is it absurd to even consider?
I think so, but like everything else, guys, over time, I mean, this is where you sit down and you go, okay, Steph, okay, Draymond, okay, Klay. Here are the scenarios on the table. What I tell you, having watched Chris Paul, is he's going to the Hall of Fame. He still has moments where you go, oh, okay, there's still something in there. Every year, though, guys, when you need him in the playoffs, when those big games are on, his body just can't hold up anymore. I mean, to watch at the end of this season when they were sending me out to Phoenix, and I was around the Suns just a little bit here and there, he's just not the same player. I think he could still help a team, but I'm not giving Chris Paul. I mean, we're talking about guys wanting big money. I'm not giving Chris Paul big money.
No. Does he still want big money?
Probably.
He's made so
Chris
much.
Paul. These guys got egos, man.
That's exactly the word, B. It's ego. I mean, if you told me Chris Paul was going to sign for a few million, okay. I would consider it a lot more. But even then, you need guys who are going to show up in the biggest of games and play at the highest level. It's why Andrew Wiggins, for example, changed the narrative about himself the way that he did last year, because he was awesome in the playoffs and especially in the finals. Chris Paul, at this stage of his career, how can you feel comfortable that he would be healthy enough to not only be in the game, but then perform at the level that the Warriors or any other team would need? So it would be a pass for me, because the evidence is there that it just can't happen.
We're going to let you go, Nick, but I could see Chris Paul signing with the Lakers as a backup plan to Kyrie Irving. I could see that happening, going to team up with LeBron, going back to L.A. Maybe he takes a few less million to play with LeBron James, one of his best friends. I don't know.
It could be B, but if the Lakers are signing Chris Paul, they're also signing away their chance to win a title. That's what I feel.
Hey, Nick. Michelle says hi. We miss you. You know you got a spot at our place anytime you come back to the Bay, buddy. It's great to hear your voice.
To my house, cousin Nick.
Need to give you a big hug when I see you.
Guys, I love you, and I truly, truly miss you. And like I've been saying for a year, any Warriors fan who's upset, any Warriors fan who's going, oh, man, I don't know what's going to happen. I want you to remember two things. One, you still have Steph Curry.
Yes.
That dude is the baddest dude on the block. But two, enjoy the bonus title. Because as I sit here at the finals and I think, oh, man, like Nuggets and Heat, that's cool. One of these teams is going to win. There is still a part of me that's like, oh, my gosh, the Warriors won last year?
Oh.
Kidding me? Like, that happened.
Hey, Nick,
so enjoy the moment.
Nick, when you coming back to the Bay? When are you coming back? Let me know so I can load up the van full of roasters. We'll be waiting for you at the airport.
Us, Mac Jones, Kelly Oubre, we'll all be in there.
Guys, I miss you. I'll see you.
We miss you too, man.
Best.
Hey, you're doing an excellent job covering the NBA, man. We really enjoy the coverage. Cousin Nick here on the Morning Roast, man. We love him. We got to keep it moving, though, man. Good perspective from Cousin Nick. Some of the gossip down there.